Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast will contain detailed spoilers. For spoiler-free reviews of newly released films, please check out our channel Reviews Without Remorse on YouTube and VidMe. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show.
Deck the halls with Reviews Without Remorse. My name is David, and all I want for Christmas is a Red Ryder carbine action 200-shot range model air rifle. And the man who could wove a tapestry of obscenities that, as far as we know, is still hanging in space over Lake Michigan, the winner of a major award, Joe!
You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
This is episode 45. And in this episode, well, Joe, why don't you explain to the audience what's going on with this episode?
Merry Christmas, ladies and gentlemen. In the spirit of full disclosure, this is going to be sort of a weird one. Dave and I recorded episode 45 a long time ago. However, my audio got a little kerfluffled, and we literally had no episode. And for a long time, we weren't able, just couldn't find the time to get back to doing it. However, since it is now Christmas, it is Christmas 2018. Dave and I took this opportunity, of course, since this wonderful movie is on pretty much round the clock around this time of year. I said, why don't we take this opportunity to go back, redo it? So Merry Christmas. This is our, we're going back in time to do A Christmas Story.
Only one story makes the holiday shine.
That star is crooked.
A classic tradition that's one of a kind. A Christmas Story.
Ah, fragile. It must be Italian.
It celebrates the spirit of giving.
Wow!
And songs to be singing.
Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh!
Of lights big and bright.
Oh, you should see what it looks like from out here.
And little ones, naughty and nice.
In the 1940s, a young boy named Ralphie attempts to convince his parents, his teacher, and Santa that a Red Ryder BB gun really is the perfect gift. Written by Gene Shepard, Lee Brown, and Bob Clark, based on the novel In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash by Gene Shepard, directed by Bob Clark, A Christmas Story.
Oh, where to begin?
There is a lot to unpack with this movie. The general gist, ladies and gentlemen, just from the smiles on both of our face, this is a joy of a movie. This is, even for younger people today, because the movie takes place in like the 40s, so it's still from a different time and stuff like that, but there is so much charm, so much enjoyment, so much love in this movie that you seriously have to be the coldest person on the planet to not love this movie.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't know. I'm finding that the younger generation doesn't quite get it. This is one where I'm going to, for sure, show my age. Because, yeah, I think it's, not everybody the younger crowd doesn't get it. I'm finding. But yeah, for me and for people our age, this is absolutely a classic. And there's a reason why they play it ad nauseum every year. Because it is just that good.
Every Christmas Eve, I am wrapping presents with this movie playing in the background. Every Christmas Eve. Been doing it ever since my son was born. Mm-hmm. So it is true what you're saying, though, because in this world of Amazon and on-demand and instant gratification, it's very difficult to translate that need, that desire for the rare, for the nearly unobtainable. You know, that feeling of going to a store. I mean, for God's sakes, we don't even have Toys R Us anymore.
Right? Isn't that crazy?
So we live in a world where there is not that one place to go to see this stuff. I mean, sure, we can go to the mall, but even the mall is slowly starting to die out. It's not the same reaction. There is something about when we were growing up together. Well, we didn't grow up together, but when we were growing up, there was always that one present, that one thing that you wanted more than anything else, that you just fixated on.
Yeah.
And invariably, as you got older, it would start to go into the range of stuff that parents might be a little dicey on. Sometimes it's the really expensive presents. Sometimes it's the you'll shoot your eye out kid. And the story is partially about that, but it is also a wonderful tale of a time and place long forgotten. Well, maybe not long forgotten, but long gone.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that is really kind of the magic of this movie. As much as it's about Christmas, as much as it's, the basic plot, the thrust of the story is about this kid that wants, just wants one toy for Christmas and, does what he can to go about trying to get it. It's really about just a time, like you said, a time long gone. You said before about how, the kids today might not be getting it because of, Amazon and yada, yada, yada. But there's so many elements in this film, from the minutia to the broad, that are just long gone, that we wouldn't even imagine today. And I wonder if kids today can even sort of wrap their heads around it. I mean, anywhere from just, the mom having to pick up the phone off of the wall to make a phone call to the kids getting disciplined. I mean, the kid gets his mouth washed out with soap, for crying out loud.
Oh yeah, you don't see that much anymore.
I mean, we're in the participation trophy days. We're forget about actual, corporal punishment, much less, putting a bar of soap in your kid's mouth. I mean, I'm positive you would probably get DIFAS call. Not only could you not do it, I don't even think you can make a movie about it these days. I feel like this is one of those movies that sort of goes back, it kind of gets lumped in with like All in the Family as well, you couldn't do that today. I don't even know if you could make this movie today, much less anything else.
You may have a point there, sir. I hadn't even thought about that particular part of it.
I mean, seriously. I mean, for as innocent as we look at this, we look at this film and think of it as being like, an innocent time that you never quite get back again. In fact, I've heard different discussions about when this film is actually set, and I think it's intentionally set right before Pearl Harbor. So it really was sort of a slice of American life that was the Garden of Eden level of innocence. But yeah, I mean, little things like that, like the soap in the kid's mouth, I don't think you would even do in a film today. So I mean, the way everything has become so sanitized, it's hard to even imagine it. So,
and yet this is still there isn't a reviewer out there at the time when it first came out. The reviewers kind of looked at it in a kind of meh way. It didn't really get the best reviews. And it didn't do very well at the box office.
Yeah,
but it has become, in a way, it's almost like Elf. In that when Elf first came out, people were like, yeah, okay, it's a pretty serviceable one, but it has become a holiday classic.
Yeah.
But I would elevate this above Elf. I enjoy Elf, don't get me wrong, but I would totally put this movie above Elf any day of the week. I feel that this movie is much more genuine. I feel like it has heart in a way that I don't know if people really can appreciate anymore. I feel like a lot of the interactions between the parents and the kids and everything like that, and school life at the time, it all feels very genuine.
Yes.
And even for us, when we were at that age, and when this movie came out in the 80s, even for us, it felt genuine. It felt like, oh gosh, this took place in the 40s, but in the 70s when we were growing up, it's very reminiscent of things that we remember.
Yeah.
We remember suiting up in those god-awful, what the hell suits that, to keep us warm. I had a jacket like that I couldn't put my arms down with for the first couple of times I wore it.
Yeah.
I had a jacket like that.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's amazing. One of the things that when I'm watching that, I watched it again this year, and one of the things that I noticed was, and again, it takes place in a very innocent time. Everyone in the film is happy. And
yeah.
I feel like, and this could just be my very personal experience, I kind of feel like the younger generation these days, and boy, am I going to sound like like an old man doing this review, I watch the younger generation these days, and I feel like everyone is on a quest to be miserable. And like I said, this could just be my personal experiences of late, but it just feels like everybody's sort of, I mean, when you watch the news, everyone is offended by things, everyone is upset about something. You watch this movie and you say, and again, in a time where you would sort of imagine people being pretty miserable because they had a lot, people had genuine problems. I mean, we didn't have the things that we have today. Yet everybody's sort of going about their business and just sort of wanting to just be happy. And boy, is that refreshing to watch. Again, it's a slice of life that we can't seem to get back again.
No, it is a almost grim reminder that sometimes the past is unfortunately the past.
Yeah.
And you'd like to think that there's still a monicum of joy to be had, but it doesn't always work out. And, sometimes in life you kind of need that reminder, because there is good in this world. There's absolutely positively good in this world, and there are good people in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Of course.
We have seen demonstrations of that. The news and stuff like that will always go for the sexy story, and the sexy story is always dread and sadness and all that other crap, and being angry about this and angry about that. And it's nice to have a movie that recognizes that people are flawed, but we all just want to be happy.
Yeah.
And this movie is kind of like almost a testament to that. Maybe testament is the wrong word. Like honoring something like that. Because, God, even the old man, for God's sakes, what do you want for Christmas? A new furnace. And
right.
See, everybody just wants, and the mother, as stressed out and everything as she is, she just wants her family to be happy. And she herself wants to be happy.
Right. Right, and there's moments of just pure joy, where, like when the kid is sticking his face in the thing, where she's just giggling and laughing because she thinks this is wonderful.
Mommy's little baby.
When they're coming back from picking up the tree and they're all singing Jingle Bells.
Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
And they're all just giggling and laughing. That was the thing. The goal was to be happy. The goal was just to be happy as often as much as you could.
Yeah, especially for the time, especially for the place. And, the little joys just happened and were beautiful. And all the characters just had such wonderful life within them that you just were charmed. Everybody, even the teacher, for God's sakes, had kind of a level to her that I just yes, she was a teacher. Yes, she was stern and everything like that. But there was an honesty in the way she wanted the children to be.
Yes.
And, the daring, the Scott Fargus, all of that stuff, all of that, you just can't, this is kind of I won't say it's a personal movie because it's not, I don't, have that thing. But to me, this is a movie that will always charm me, no matter what, no matter how many times I've seen it. And I've seen it hundreds of times. TBS plays it for 24 hours on Christmas Eve, for God's sake.
Seriously.
And I still watch it.
Yeah.
I own the movie, and yet Christmas Eve comes, I'm still watching it on TBS. And I complain about it. It's like, God, I can't stand these freaking commercials, but I'm still watching it, aren't I?
And it's funny you say that, because I bought it years ago on Blu-ray. Mm-hmm. To this day, I say to myself, why did I even bother? Because honestly, I don't think I've ever had the need to. I don't even know if I've ever opened it. I'm pretty sure I did, but I'm not sure. I can't remember ever saying, oh, I got to go get the Blu-ray and put it on, because it's just when this time of year comes on, it's on TV. Like, it reminds me before I have a chance to think to go get it. So, right. It's on all the time. And with good reason.
It's a reason it's beloved. It's a reason why it's on all the time. And, when people... There was a time, I remember this actually growing up, when people were like, It's a Wonderful Life is on again. I actually remember people complaining about that back in the day. I don't hear anybody complaining about the Christmas Story marathon.
No. In fact, it's funny. You compared it to Elf before, and I sort of had the same thing in mind. I was thinking to myself, this to me is like our generation's It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
You know, this is like the classic Christmas movie for our age group.
Agreed. 100% agreed. There is nothing like this, and I don't think there's been anything. I like Elf. Don't get me wrong, but I don't quite see it. Maybe it's just get off my lawn situation again. I don't see it the same way because and weirdly it should appeal to us because it does kind of throw back to the stop motion animated Christmas shows that we grew up with, you know, and all those, you know, with the narration and the animation and stuff like that. It is very much reminiscent of that, and I still enjoy it and I still laugh at it and everything like that. But I guess a part of me, one of the reasons why my biggest problem with Christmas movies like that is I'm kind of tired of the cynicism. And there's a level of cynicism in Elf. And now, again, I am not bashing Elf. I love Elf. But there is a level of cynicism within Elf that, as enjoyable as it is still just kind of, I would really just like it to be joyful. Yeah. This is the holiday season. This is the one time of year that I hope that all of humanity will just let it go for a moment.
Yeah.
There is a wonderful story. I'm sure you've heard this before, and I'm going to relay this anyway. There is a wonderful story of during World War One, on the front lines, the British and the German front lines. On Christmas Day, an unofficial ceasefire happened between the two sides. Okay? They took the time to bury their dead. They met across the battle lines, and the two opposing sides celebrated Christmas together. Look it up. It happened. It's a true story. I love that story. It is one of my favorite Christmas stories of all time. I think it's called The Christmas Truce. Just, you know, everybody just please look it up. And this is in the middle of the horrors of war. This is the type of thing that I like most about the holidays. That for one moment, for one day, for a 24-hour period, everybody just drops the bullshit and just remembers that we are all human beings and we're all in this together, regardless of whatever difference we have politically, racially, sexuality, whatever. Just one day, remember that we are humans. And I hate to pontificate in the middle of a podcast, but this is what this movie reminds me of, that there is a possibility that we as a world can be together and be happy. And we don't have to always be so dour and cynical all the time.
A yearly tradition.
I triple dog dare you!
Stuffed with delicious new treats
A little bribe never hurts.
that make the holidays complete.
You know, you mentioned the cynicism before, but it's funny because I remember, and you also mentioned how critically it really didn't do so well when it first came out. I remember being very resistant to this movie when it came out. When I was much younger, and this movie came out in the 80s, early 80s.
Yeah.
So I would have been, 11, 12 or so. And I remember I wasn't real keen on it. And I specifically remember the poster. Remember the poster with the, with the leg lamp, and he's got the bunny outfit on, and it was that very National Lampoon-y style illustration.
Yes.
And
it was directed by the guy who directed Porky's too.
Right, yeah. And it's funny, I think somehow this was sort of his passion project. After he did those movies, like after they were successful, it was kind of like, okay, now can I be left alone to do my Christmas movie? They're like, yeah, sure, go do what you want. And he did this. So yeah, I remember being very reluctant, and I thought for sure it was going to be overly cynical. And I really had no desire to see it based on that. And I think once I finally saw it, and once I saw it a couple times, I started to get it, and then I very much warmed up to it. And there's still a little bit of that. There's a little cynicism, like probably the store Santa Claus and the kids screaming at him, the store's closed and I'm not working past, whatever. Little things like that, I suppose. For the most part, though, again, I was sort of shocked at how much warmth is actually in it. And it is funny because, it does have I want to use the word darker. There's darker moments in it, I suppose, but I mean, on the big scheme of things, it's barely gray, really.
Yeah.
But it does have the moments where, I mean, you got the bully. I mean, the fight with the bully is I suppose, whatever.
Oh, fudge.
Only I didn't say fudge.
The part when, when he knocks the lug nuts into the street and, oh, fudge. I think when I was younger, I kind of was like, well, that's a little dark. But again, the magic, the beauty of this film is that they treat these things with a very light touch. I mean, one of the things that I noticed in this film, for all the talking about cussing and curse words, there is no actual cussing or curse words. I
love that about it.
Yes, I think that is sort of, it's almost one of the secret ingredients. Like that's part of the secret sauce that makes this movie what it is that they allude to it without actually doing it. A movie today, for sure, they would just be cuss words flying, and that would be the punchline in itself, that we'd have children using bad words. Here, they have the incredible presence of mind to not do that. Oh, fudge, but I didn't really say fudge. And even the fight with the bully.
You Thornton over them nipple bang gunk stinking piss. Stop it, did you hear what he said? Holy smokes.
Where he's supposedly throwing out cuss words like crazy. And again, this is a time when a little kid saying a bad word, that you were in trouble. You would be in serious trouble for saying, when we were kids, getting caught saying a bad word. Nowadays, I don't even think parents even flinch anymore. I don't even think they even bother. Nowadays it's like,
not today.
Yeah, nowadays it's like, if my kid's not pregnant and not a drug addict, I'm good. I get parent of the year. I'm fine. Speaking of cynicism, sorry. But anyway, but even like the part where he's beating up the bully and he's just flying out, cuss words. They do it in that kind of like Looney Tunes kind of way, where it's shush, freaking, mumbling, gibberish as opposed to actually saying the bad words. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And the guy who made this, again, knew what he was doing. That is a magical touch to this film.
It's a clinker! That blasted stupid furnace, that gummit.
Darren McGavin improvised those curses, and believe it or not, there's actually a quote list. Blast it, poop, flirt, rattle, crap, camel, flirt, you blunder, frattle, beak, struckle brat of a womp sack, butt bottom fodder, smick, melly, swap walker, drop done, fratten, house stickle viper. Who the hell comes up with that? Brilliant!
Right. Another brilliant. I kind of forgot about that one too as I was talking about it, but yeah, that was another brilliant. And again, here he is talking about how his father can weave a tapestry of obscenities, but there's no actual cuss words coming out. Again, brilliant.
How can you not find such joy in that? How can you not? I mean, it seriously takes a level of cynicism beyond what I can imagine. Okay, fine. Yes, Christmas has become crass and consumer driven in a lot of respects. I understand that. I agree with that. For God's sake, we don't have to deconstruct everything, do we? Can we not keep some purity?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you're right. I mean, the consumerism part will always be with us. And that's, you know what? I don't even get on my soapbox about that, because I kind of feel like necessary evil is even probably too harsh. One of my funny memories of Christmas, I always find the idea of Santa Claus to be very strange, even though it's a beautiful part of Christmas. It's an essential part of Christmas, and I think every parent loves telling their children Santa Claus is coming, because it just sort of fills you with a sense of wonder. But I've never quite understood why a parent would go to the trouble to buy toys for their children, to make a wonderful day for their children, and give someone else the credit. To the point where I literally could remember my parents complaining about money when I was a kid, and I used to just say, just ask Santa Claus. Just ask Santa Claus for whatever you need. And my mother would laugh. Well, it doesn't really work that way. I'm like, all right, you just tell me what you want. I'll put it on my Christmas list, and Santa will bring it, and I'll just, give it to you. Nah, it doesn't really work that way. But again, I remember when there was like a consumer's catalog. A catalog that used to come in the mail every year. It must have been an inch thick. And the last quarter of it was all toys. My brother and I would just sit there for weeks, circling, and not thinking it was being greedy, because I'm just sitting there thinking, this is free stuff. Take advantage of it. I'd say to my mother, Mom, this is all free stuff. What are you talking about? So yeah, there's the so yeah, I kind of always have had a funny feeling about the consumerism part, and I'm guilty as charged, but who knew?
It's hard. It's definitely Liam didn't take the loss of Santa Claus very well, and there is a part of me that feels bad about that, because I try to explain to him, because Santa is based on a real person. He's a saint who used to be this kind and generous, and explain that it's just a way of honoring that.
It's a good way to look at it.
But it is. It's a way of honoring a person who really was like. He didn't go to all the children around the world, of course, obviously, but it's nice to honor that. I do feel it's a bit bait and switchy with kids, so yeah, there's not much you could do about that. But man, you know what? We're adults now. We got over the Santa Claus isn't real thing, and we continued the tradition in some respects. You don't have kids, but you have a niece and nephew, and I don't think when they were 4 years old you sat down and said, "Hey kids, Santa Claus scam."
Yeah. No, like I said, I mean, I just find it to be a funny sort of thing. Again, it's. I mean, think of the effort that our parents put into it, and that you and other parents put into for their kids. And again, somebody else gets the credit. I just find that kind of funny. But yeah, but hey, I mean,
but in a weird way, you're kind of proving the point of what I'm trying to say about cynicism. This is a rough world. There's a lot of bad stuff going on in this world, and I didn't have a problem letting my kid feel for many years that there is things to be joyous about, and it was nice for him to believe that even though things can be bad, that there is magic in this world. This movie is magic to me in this world.
Agreed.
Because it doesn't exactly say that there is no Santa Claus.
Yes.
But but it gives like enough of the clues type there.
Yes.
It's not so hard. It's not like those movies that like, oh no, Santa Claus isn't real. It's blah blah blah. I can't stand that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But it exists in a real world with real characters that have their own issues and problems and stuff like that. But when they all get together as a family, they're just happy.
You're right. And I completely agree with you, by the way. That is also kind of going almost along with the cuss word part. The idea that they don't say yes, no, that there is a Santa Claus. They kind of, again, it's almost one of those movies. It's almost like the Batman original series. If you're a kid, the jokes go right past you anyway, and you're just into the crime fighting. If you're an adult, there are jokes in there that you get that the kids will not pick up on. And that's sort of almost how they sort of play with Santa Claus here. Santa Claus might be passing over this house because kids aren't in bed, and the things your parents say to each other like that. Okay, if you're an adult, you'll get it. If you're a kid, probably went right over your head.
Pretty much. But that's all part of its appeal.
Yes.
I think Bob Clark, the original stories by Gene Shepard were fun and amazing. I think Bob Clark translated them perfectly.
Yeah.
In a way that is enduring to me, at least. There's a very good possibility that once our generation has died out, that this movie might go the way of It's a Wonderful Life being the Christmas classic, and then Elf will be the one that everybody talks about. And I kind of feel bad about that. I feel like that this world is just growing way too cynical, and I like knowing that this movie exists that is kind of the anti-cynicism. Yeah, okay, fine. It's got a small level of cynicism, but it's not terribly in your face about it. And I can't fault it for trying to bring what it does bring. And what it brings me every time that I watch it.
What have we got here, folks?
Well, we figure he's Black Bart, Ralph.
Well, says him, a trusty old Red Ryder carbine action 200 shot range model air rifle. Lucky I got a compass in the stock. Well, I think I better have a look here.
Or he's on.
It's all blue! Oh, no! Seize it, boys! The gin is off!
There are moments of hyper-realism in this movie as well, but there were, dream sequences or flashbacks or anything along those lines. And I didn't really get bothered by any of them. I just want something. Guys, for God's sakes, let's just get back. If you're going to do a movie that takes place during Christmas, for God's sakes, try not to deconstruct it. Try not to, moralize or anything like that. This movie touched on the consumerism. This movie touched on the toughness of the time of year. This movie touched on, the relative, selfishness of kids when it comes to Christmas and stuff like that. It touched on all these things, but it touched it in a way that was not only genuine, but still managed to be sweet. Because what did Ralph ask for? He didn't ask for the store. He asked for one thing.
Right, yeah. Yes.
You were talking about how in your example you basically opened the end of the Sears catalog and just circled everything in it.
Yeah.
Ralph didn't want the whole catalog. He had this one thing in mind, which is sweet. Yeah, he's trying to basically push the plot forward with it, but it's nice, it's sweet, it's a wonderful reminder of when I was a kid, and there was always that one. Yeah, okay, fine. You always wanted a couple of different toys, but there was always one. Always one.
Oh, yeah.
That was the biggest one of all.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things that I find amazing about this film is that the narrator is the author of the book.
Yep.
I mean,
Gene Shepard.
Seriously, can you imagine a narrator as perfect? His voice in this is absolutely positively perfect. I mean, it makes the whole film in some respects. And it's almost just dumb luck that he's also the author of the book. I mean, how would you, if you searched for the perfect narrator for this, you could not have gotten a voice that spot on.
It was a beautiful voice.
Yeah.
It had a nice little baritone, but like a oh gosh, oh golly type of sound to it as well.
I mean, yeah, totally. I mean, if this guy, if he was not a good author, his other career could have easily been voiceover work.
And I would have gladly listened to him read just about anything.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, this show has become such a wonderful classic that, there was a Broadway play. There is a Broadway musical play, as a matter of fact, that got really good reviews. A fan of the show actually bought the house that they used for exterior shots, gutted it, and put it to look like the house. And they even bought the frickin' Bumpus house, and now that's a bed and breakfast. So that people can visit.
Isn't that amazing? I tell you, I would love to go there just to see this.
Oh, I'm totally going there. That's a bucket list item for me.
I'm with you. I am totally with you on that.
So run, don't delay. Get your favorite holiday movie today.
No, I want an official Red Ryder carbine action 200 shot range model air rifle.
Just be ready to shout.
You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
But what's not in the bucket is our scores, Joe. A Christmas Story, the 1983 classic. Joe, what do you got for me?
Boy, this is a tough one to score because honestly, there is a part of me that would just love to give it a 10. There's a part of me that would love to just say this is the Christmas classic to beat all Christmas classics and everything they do is right. And I really don't have much to point at as far as imperfections go. I really don't. In fact, when you get to my Who Asked You, it's going to be the biggest cheat you've ever heard in your life. But on the other hand, it's also a small movie. It's a very I mean, this is sort of like a made for TV. Like if you did this today, this would be like a made for TV movie. It's
or a Netflix movie, maybe,
if that even. I mean, it's not what we would look at and call an ambitious film. So with that in mind, I'm going to give it a 9. I was actually leaning more towards an 8, but honestly, I really do have to. I look at this film and I say, I'm hard pressed to find anything wrong with this. I mean, this is just such a warm, wonderful film that I mean, seriously, when Christmas comes along, and if I'm flipping the channels and this comes on, the remote goes down. You know, it every year this one stays with me, and I could watch this over and over and over. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a 9.
Well, I'm not going to be as snooty as you, sir, because I'm giving it a frickin' 10.
Good man.
I can't. Are there flaws? Maybe, probably. You know, ladies and gentlemen, as Joe said, we're re-recording this. We literally re-recorded this after we did our review for Aquaman. And in the Aquaman review, I said, it's funny because there's a lot of mistakes in this movie, but the magic, the director tells the story so well that it's like a sleight of hand. It magically erases the major problems that you would have with plot and structure and stuff like that because of how well it's put together. This movie makes James Wan's Aquaman look like a pedestrian vehicle. This movie is just magical from moment to moment to moment. I am sure that if I sat there and I really wanted to be a Scrooge about it, I could find a bunch of things wrong with this movie. I'm positive of that. But you know what? One of the things I love about this movie is its lack of cynicism. And I'm going to let my cynicism go and just enjoy it for what it is. It makes me happy. It's a 10.
Well said, my friend. Well said. I'm feeling like a Scrooge now for giving it a 9, but well done.
Good for you. Well, I don't have a Who Asked You, so I'm putting it on you. Who asked you, nitpicky boy?
Again, you're going to find this to be the biggest cheat, and I've been known to cheat on these things before, so I'm just going to go for it. My Who Asked You, if you have ever seen A Christmas Story live.
I hate to spoil the fun, but you'll shoot your eye out. But hugs start kissing that gun goodbye. Well, shoot, it's cute that you desire it, but the moment that you fire it, you'll shoot your eye out.
With Matthew Broderick as the narrator, with this thing where they do dance numbers and songs. This was something they did. I don't know if you've seen like the Grease Live that they did and a couple other things.
Oh, yeah. It came out in 2017. I remember.
Yeah. Wow, is it dreadful. If you love A Christmas Story, I don't understand what you would find about the Christmas Story live version to be remotely charming at all. It's just bizarre in every stretch of the imagination, and honestly, you know who rips it to shreds perfectly is the Nostalgia Critic. He did a thing on it, and boy, he just sat there and watched this. It was like, just what the heck is this? So yeah, if you're a fan of A Christmas Story, please avoid at all costs any attempt at a sequel or a retelling or whatever. There was a Christmas Story 2. Again, I never sat through it. I probably shouldn't even comment on it, but I just avoided it at all costs. It just looked awful. Something they just did years and years later as a weird cash grab, only after it sort of became like a cult classic. Stick with the original. just don't venture off in any way, shape, or form.
So that's your Who Asked You?
That's my Who Asked You.
That's weak.
Listen. You are correct. I cannot find fault with this film. I mean, sure, but it's the only part of me that just like I can't give this movie a 10 and then give Infinity War an 8. I mean, it's just hard for me to. I have to sort of be fair and say that this is. I mean, you can't. You can't. I mean, you can't take a beautiful short story and compare it to War and Peace and say it's the same score. Again, it's a beautiful, flawless charmer. But again, it's just it's a simple, very simple story. So like I said, I think my 9 is fair.
You know what? It's your score, dude. It's your score. All right. Well, how about for your consideration, sir?
For your consideration, I mentioned it already, so I'll just recap this point. One of the brilliant things about this film was the fact that the creators knew enough to keep that sense of innocence. And even though we were talking about cussing and cursing, there's not a single cuss word in this whole film. And I think that is sort of, as I'm looking for looking at the secret ingredients of this film, trying to figure out what is it that makes this thing such a masterpiece. That is one of the things I look at. And I say that is a conscious decision by the filmmakers. And boy, were they smart. They knew what they were doing when they made that move. And again, one of the reasons why I think this thing is, it holds its charm so well. And one of the reasons why I believe it lives on as well as it has, and why I think for the most part it'll continue to be a classic. Again, like I said, I think as time goes along, I do worry that the younger generations won't quite get it. Because again, this sort of has the charm. It's like a story that a grandparent would tell you. When you hear your parents talking about this is the kind of film that your parents will walk in and see you watching it, and they'll go, "Oh, I wanted one of those BB guns too." So it's got that sort of a timelessness that our generation, I think, really benefits from. I hope it lives on. I hope the newer generation gets it the way we've gotten it for many years.
All right. I will grant you. I will absolutely, positively grant you that. That's not bad at all. Still a little disappointed about the lack of 10, but you know what? Your opinion.
I could easily be dissuaded. I could be persuaded that maybe this should be the first time where I've actually given in and said, let me give this a 10. Because you know what? In the spirit of Christmas, I'm going to change it to a 10.
Yeah,
I've never done that in the history of the show before. I've never changed my score. But you know what? You're right. Well, I mean, if I literally can't come up with anything to knock it on sincerely, then why the hell not? Let's give it a 10.
All right, good man. Very pleased, sir. Very pleased. For me, sir, Darren McGavin. That man is a national frickin' treasure, and it is a tragedy that he is gone from this world. Yeah,
and you know what? That you've actually, not only is he spectacular in this role, because he is so, whether he's miserable and grumpy or whether he is sort of the shining light of the story, he pulls it off each and every way. And incidentally, by the way, there's also something you're reminding me of that I kind of wanted to mention, by the way. I love the fact that he is essentially the hero of the story.
Yes.
The guy who ends up buying him the gift that he wants, you think the father is so consumed with the sports pages and the furnace and his stupid leg lamp, you think he's not paying attention to anything that's going on with his kids, with his family. And then in the ninth inning, who's the one who comes in and saves the day? He's the one who's been listening to the son all along, sympathizes with the son all along, and he's the one who buys the present. Like how great is that?
It's a wonderful, wonderful and touching moment in the movie. And McGavin has that amazing talent and range that he could stand there and be cursing like he's Yosemite Sam 1 minute and making you laugh your head off, and then just tugging your heart and being like, "Oh my God!" No,
yeah. And by the way, one of the things that we didn't really touch on was the cast. I think the cast is spectacular.
Solid.
There is one kind of funny one that I will sort of, if I was forced.
Say uncle! Uncle!
If you were like Scott Farkas and you had my arm behind my back in a chicken wing and I'm yelling uncle, if I had to pull out one criticism of this film or something I would have done differently, the casting of the younger brother.
He is a little. He's young though. I can't really.
But he's
fault him.
big. I kind of feel like he is. At times, he looks bigger than Ralphie. I felt like for that role, if you want a little kid, well, get a little short kid. Not this kid who's almost the same height as Ralphie, who looks almost bigger than he does. And then when he puts the big jacket on, does look bigger than Ralphie. It's like I've always sort of felt like he almost just seemed not younger, just a little slower, So I kind of felt like it was sort of an unfair. Yeah, if I were to cast the movie, I would have cast a genuine, much younger child for that part.
All right, I will grant you that. I'm not going to hold that against you because you're kind of right.
But again, that's the worst thing I can say about the film. And like I said, you'd have to hold my arm in a chicken wing and make me say uncle to even come up with that one.
Ho, ho, ho.
A Christmas Story.
And thus ends another episode of Reviews Without Remorse. Now, even though we recorded this late, if you're going in order, next week, episode 46 is Joe's Top 10 for 2017.
Oh, yes. I know what they are, but you don't yet if you haven't heard it, so enjoy.
That's right. If you're listening to this in order, that's what's coming up next, so I just figured I'd throw that out there.
Our second Top 10 already. Time has flown.
Indeed it has. Much more than we even could have realized.
Yeah.
But until then, ladies and gentlemen, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, folks. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next year. Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode. And be sure to check out the Reviews Without Remorse channel on YouTube and VidMe for spoiler-free reviews of new releases, as well as in-depth discussions of current and classic cinema. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider becoming a patron. You can find our page at patreon.com. As little as $1 a month goes a long way. All clips in this podcast are used for commentary and critique, and is considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.